So lean a little on your friends, they will carry you. Shelter from the stormy nights. Lean a little on your friends, they will guide you through. You know you're gonna be alright.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Quad Pod, your nerdy podcast where we talk about everything we watch, we listen, we play, and we read. My name is Wesley. I am joined by Max.
Hello.
Simone.
That's me.
And Alec.
Yep, I'm here.
So we have what we do is we talk about the things, like I said, all the nerdy things we like to do within those four categories, and because 4 is a nerdy number. If you want to know why, check out the first episode. Hey, we'll explain it there. But otherwise, we each bring our own topic to the table, and we discuss them in depth. And we try to spend around 15 minutes talking about our topic. Well, of course, a conversation, so it's not just one person blabbering on for 15 minutes like I have been since the very beginning. So, who feels most passionate about their subject today?
Well, I've
Probably Alec.
yeah, this is something that I've kind of been going through, and I don't know if it's something that's just a symptom of getting older and not having as much time for video games as I used to have in the past. But playing games now, and especially going back and buying a lot of those retro games, I have a Nintendo 64 that every time I find a neat little third-party store selling video games that's got some of those classics, I'll pick them up and come back and play them. But one of the things that I've noticed about some older games is that, especially back in the generation that we grew up on, it's you can tell that sometimes video games don't age super well, and it's hard to just sit down and binge on a game like we can now, and it's difficult to do that with the older games. And I know it's kind of odd to think of BioShock as an older game, but I've been talking to Max about this one fairly frequently. Is that I don't know if BioShock was a game that aged well either. It was a series that I've been wanting to check out for so long, and I finally got my hands on a 3-pack with the 3 BioShock games that are out, and I'm kind of struggling through the first game. Not a struggle as far as difficulty or that it's scary or anything. It just feels like a chore working my way through it right now, and it's like, this is not how video games are supposed to feel. It shouldn't be a chore to get to the end of the game and finish it up so you can get to the next one. It's odd. I don't know. It's going through, and it's we'll shoot the bad guys, move on to the next area, and you just keep moving on. And I'm not sure how BioShock isn't capturing my attention like it did for millions of people back in the day when it was so innovative and fresh and new, and people couldn't stop talking about it.
2006, I want to say, was BioShock.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
So a little over 10 years of video game development from there, and I'm not sure if we're just spoiled now with the games that we have, where it's everything is so clean and pretty graphically, and the controls
by
are just
comparison,
perfect.
then what would be like a more modern shooter that would be kind of like what would make BioShock disappointing in retrospect?
Well, one of the games that BioShock was kind of reminding me of as I was going through that, because the beginning of BioShock is kind of creepy as you're going through it, and it was reminding me of Dead Space a lot. And Dead Space was one for me that was very comfortable in its own genre and just was so well done. That for me, Dead Space was a more perfect BioShock. Definitely a lot different games, though. I mean, Dead Space was a third-person shooter, more of a survival horror than BioShock was, where it was what would you call that? what would you call that genre other than just an FPS? Because it's definitely not like a Call of Duty shooter for
Mm.
Well, you mean
sure.
like a third person?
Yes,
Is Dead
action.
Space third person?
Dead Space is a third-person
Yeah.
shooter, but it was kind of it tried to have its own little innovation that that instead of a heads-up display, all of everything that you would see as far as um, your ammo and your inventory and your health is visible on the character's body instead of having to
Yeah.
pull up a pause screen or look at your heads-up display. But
Yeah, the Ghostbusters video game back on the 360 did something similar.
yeah,
Kind of helps keep you in the environment more. It gets you a little bit more invested in it.
yeah. But as BioShock as a survival horror genre, um, as a first-person shooter survival, it just maybe it's just wasn't challenging enough for me or scary enough. It was just I don't know. I don't know what it was about that game, but it makes me sad because I know that's a great game and that it's a great
Mm.
series. And
Well,
I'm just
games evolved since then too.
and it's evolved since then, and that's what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say is that I think it just hasn't aged aged well necessarily to a modern video game environment. I guess I'm not
Hmm.
seeing it.
Yeah.
Like it's still kind of held on to some of the old school, but like you said, move from one room to the next, kill everything, move to the next room,
Yeah,
sort of
and
thing.
it's
And I can see where that could be getting a little bit tired because I know like one thing that'll come up in conversation a lot when people talk about retro games is you'll always have that one guy who will go on and on about how uh, uh, GoldenEye on the 64 is like the greatest game of all time. It's like try to play GoldenEye recently, it is unfreaking playable by modern standards.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
5 minutes in, and you're just like, I can't do this anymore. It was
It-
revolutionary for the time, but as things have gone by, it's just like, this is not good. This is not good anymore.
and it was
Well, go ahead.
yeah, and it was we were talking about I got uh Max a Sega Genesis Classic for Christmas, and now he's
Uh-huh.
got the Super Nintendo Classic, and then sometimes trying to play those old games. It was just like, man, that was just part of the grind back in the day. Sitting around all the kids sitting around that TV, just seeing how far you can get and just playing it over and over again. And now it's
Yeah.
just kind of like, I'll put about 15 minutes into it and get frustrated and mad, and then just move on. And I think we're just kind of spoiled
Right.
now with a game and
Uh,
a story. I think with somebody put a lot of effort in that story, it's like, well, let's make sure they can get to the end of this thing and see everything that we've created.
See, I think that's why RPGs might be a little better. They hold up a little better. I always love Chrono Trigger.
Chrono
So
Trigger, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you bring that up, Wes, actually, because I was talking with a friend of mine the other day when we were talking about RPGs, and he was just like, like it's so hard for me to get into the whole turn-based strategy thing anymore. It's so it's so tripe. It's so been there, done that, and like you see a lot of modern RPGs, all of them are trying to do something to buck that trend. Whether it's like the Paper Mario series where you press buttons in order to try to dodge or enhance the attacks, or like a couple years ago I played one called Child of Light where it was kind of turn-based, but there was also a timer involved. Like whirlwind attacks would happen, and you had to make sure everything was lined up with the timer. It was interesting. But
Okay.
right now with the Super Nintendo Classic, I'm going back, and I just started playing Super Mario RPG, which I had
Mhm.
never played before. But
Oh.
anybody who has played it has always told me about how wonderful of a game that is. And for me right now, playing it, I am enjoying it. Like I'm enjoying it immensely. But it's very much, confined to the rules of RPGs of the time. Like I feel like if this same game were released today, like from a modern company, everybody would be looking at it like and saying this isn't doing anything different. Like there are some stuff that I think can still be good, but only within the context of when they were released.
Well, I mean, yeah, but at the same time, they brought out what was it, Bravely Default, which was pretty much a straight up a classic RPG with the new twist of the default, where you can sacrifice your turn and then use that later on. Like you could build wait 4 turns default, and then all of a sudden use 8 turns at once. And it was a slight twist, but still, it was an RPG. Straight up, that's how the battles worked.
Right, and that's what I'm kind of saying. Like a lot of modern RPGs are trying to find those twists, are trying to find ways to shake up the classic formula. Like I don't know if there's been too many traditional turn-based RPGs that have been released in recent years, and one of the biggest franchises that does that, Final Fantasy, even that's moved into real-time action instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that active time battle system.
Right.
One of the games that I picked up about a year ago now, I think, was that Rareware Museum game. What was that? What was that called?
Oh, like the Rare Retro Classic or whatever.
Yeah, and it had all the Rareware games, and I remember hearing all the stuff about, well, of course, Battletoads was also always going to be difficult, but I remember growing up on Banjo-Kazooie and loving that game and playing Conker's Bad Fur Day, which was, supposed to be, a similar game, what do you call it, a platforming adventure game, and I feel like that's a dying genre that, you don't really see that much anymore up until, the guys that did Banjo-Kazooie did Ukulele again here is the only modern example that I can think about, but that Conker game is about unplayable too, just trying to jump from platform to platform and just missing, and it's just like, can I adjust the camera angle a little bit, please, or just maybe have a better jump or something? Because I'm tired of falling off the
for
cliff.
modern platformers, there's always going to be the Mario games, and Super Mario Odyssey is one of the best games I've ever played in my life.
Yeah,
that was just a huge. I don't even know how to describe my experience playing that game. I loved it so much.
yeah.
I mean, there was also Ori and the Blind Forest. I think was a modern platformer. If you
That
want to
was
put that in
more.
quotes.
I think I was trying to refer more to the 3D platformers.
Oh yeah,
2D.
3D.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, Mario seems to be one of the only ones that can actually do it.
And still do it well. Like they're every single like Super Mario game, at least for the time they came out, knocked it out of the park. I know there are some people who aren't big fans of Super Mario Sunshine, and I'll even admit the last time I tried to play it, I actually found it a little bit frustrating. Like the controls were just not as responsive as I remember, and I don't know if it's because like Mario games have just tightened up the controls that much since then, and I've gotten used to better controls, or if they were actually that unwieldy at the time.
That's probably a huge part of it too. I remember when that GameCube first came out and we were kids and watching all the reviews coming out, 9 out of 10s, 10 out of 10s and that kind of stuff, and just to have them come back later on, when we're in high school, and then they're, talking about like, well, we had to revisit these ones and adjust the ratings because playing them now, it's just like you can definitely tell all of the flaws they had. And I remember Super Mario Sunshine was one of those big ones that came out with really great reviews, but revisiting that one was, people were saying, yeah, that's not that great, and Luigi's Mansion was awful.
I still like Luigi's Mansion.
I still like Luigi's Mansion, but a lot of people, that's a game that's kind of hard if you didn't grow up on that one too. That's kind of hard to pick up.
Maybe.
Maybe.
And I
Same
still
with sorry.
no. It still feel like there's some classics that do hold up, but yeah, they're few and far between because back then it was arcades. You shove quarters into a cabinet, and early video games followed a similar pattern. And now it's a whole theory of game design.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the thought process behind arcade cabinets was not only how many quarters can we get in here, but it's like there was a set ending. Like you started, you play for an hour or two, you finish. A friend of mine recently put together a Raspberry Pi and put a bunch of classic games on there, and he wants me to swing by and he's asking me, he's like, we'll play. Like, what are some of your favorite games when you were a kid that like maybe you don't have right now? Like, what would you love to play? And we got to talk about Super Nintendo, and both of us talked about Turtles in Time. Which was originally an arcade game ported to the Super Nintendo, and I played that one to death, and now it's like, even though I loved that game as a kid, I think about it now and it's like, I don't know if I want to just stare at a TV and beat everybody up on screen for an hour.
Yeah, it's almost
Like
like
that experience never necessarily changed the whole way through. Like the only change was like the environment and the way the enemies looked. But other than that, like there wasn't really a progression. There wasn't really a sense of reward other than how far you made it.
it's almost kind of like this, when you find one of those classic games, it's almost like, do I want to play this right now and just ruin my childhood memories with how bad I am at this game now and how I can't figure out anything anymore?
Uh, But I mean, yeah, that's one of the things. I would still love to get a classic SNES simply to
Yeah.
play Super
Yeah.
Mario Brother or Super Mario World.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
That
will
was-
say that one has stood the test of time, and you can pick that one up, and that one's still going to be fun. Super Mario
Yeah.
World, all the Super
it's-
Mario games
Super
are
Mario
always.
World is pretty much like the perfected 2D platformer, at least of its time. I don't exactly know how you would compare it to more modern ones that essentially use it as a model. Although most modern platforms even are more off of the Metroidvania model than they are on the Super Mario one.
Yeah.
But God, like I even though I played that one to death when I got my Super Nintendo Classic, I still booted that one up and went through a couple levels on it, and
Yeah, it's hard not to play it because it's fun.
it's always going to be good. The only reason I would be in a position where it's like, yeah, I don't feel like playing that right now is because I've played it so much in my life.
Yeah.
But one game, that's why all these new ones, they always bring out a new version, either a sequel or a remake. But one game that's constantly being remade is Smash Brothers.
Oh yeah.
They introduced a new Smash game. Max, do you want to take this away?
Yeah, I'm kind of infamous in some friend circles for talking way too much about Smash Bros, so I should be able to fill up some time talking about it. First of all, I want to open up by saying, like, obviously it's all been spoiled at this point, but if you had the chance to like watch the Nintendo Direct live and just see the teaser trailer that they announced it with, oh man, like that was one of
Yeah, that was good.
best reveals I've ever seen and witnessed in my life. Because for those like not in the know, it opens up with two of the characters from their Splatoon series fighting against one another.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
And this was hot on the heels. Like I've played minimal Splatoon. Like I've never owned one. Occasionally I'll be somewhere where somebody has one, and I would play a match or two. It's like, this is neat. It's not for me, but it's neat. But this was hot off the heels of them announcing just a ton of stuff, a ton of updates and DLC and the like for Splatoon 2 on the Nintendo Switch. So when this opened up, it's like, oh great, like here's more Splatoon stuff. And then just one of the characters turns around and you see the logo come into focus in her eyes, and just, oh my god, it was just so amazing. And so now there's the big question that a lot of people have been asking are, is this a port of the Wii U one, or is this a brand new game?
Oh yeah,
And-
that's my big question for sure.
It's the
It's
big
new. It's new.
Right. And like the port theory does hold water, just in that Nintendo has been porting over most of their Wii U games, which I think is fair because the Wii U did have a lot of great games on it, but it sold so poorly. Like the Switch outsold it within its first year, easily, above and beyond. So it's like good on Nintendo for giving everybody this opportunity to play some of these great games that were on a system that virtually nobody ever actually owned. But you're right, Wes. Like a lot of signs are pointing to it being a brand new game. Most pointedly being, one, a tweet that the developer or lead designer Masahiro Sakurai, who worked on all the Smash Bros. Games, it sounded like it was implied to be a new game. The logo is different, and band code. Help me out here. Namco Bandai. Okay. Their trademark is not on the site, and they helped develop the Wii U and 3DS versions that came out in the last generation.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a brand new game, and there's also the curiosity that while you only see silhouettes of some characters in the teaser trailer, the two easily identifiable ones and close-ups being Mario and Link, Link's silhouette resembles his Breath of the Wild appearance, which again, it's like if you're going to completely shake up and redesign the looks of one of the characters, granted that could easily be a skin. Smash Bros. They're still kind of getting it figured out. They did much better with the Wii U one, but with alternate costumes on a lot of characters, I really hope that's something that they flesh out more in a follow-up game. But everything's pointing at a new game. It's unusual that if they're planning on releasing at the end of the year, we wouldn't have more information at this point. Usually, you know at least a good solid chunk of the roster a year out. We've seen a lot of these trends before, and of course we're back in that classic new Smash Brothers stage of what new characters are going to be in the game. Who's coming in, and the Wii U 3DS versions opened up a lot of gates. I mean, Brawl opened up a lot of gates with Sonic and Snake in there both, which blew minds at the time that the characters who were not Nintendo, especially Solid Snake, who was more in tune with the PlayStation series of consoles.
Right.
But the fact that the Wii U version had Bayonetta in it, opens up the doors to, not necessarily family-friendly characters that Nintendo was most known for. And obviously, characters outside, again, of Nintendo's usual personal assortment of IPs.
Right.
My
That's a
God,
huge
if
one
we
being.
don't get Shovel Knight though.
Right. So, and going into that is something else I want to talk about is, obviously we're getting a lot of third-party stuff into here, but with the Nintendo Switch, you have seen Nintendo pushing so hard to get more and more indie games on it. And right now there's most of the indie games that are on the Switch of ports of games that have already been on PC for a while. Like one of their big selling points in this last Direct was that Undertale is coming to the Switch. And Undertale, I'm sure you guys are aware, like kind of took the internet by storm in 2016, I want to say, is when it came out. So huge indie game, one that's still been out for a while. I actually just got done playing an indie game called The Sexy Brutale, which was kind of interesting and fun to play through. Again, been on PC for a while. But you look at something like Shovel Knight that has massive popularity, that has some unique features on Switch, that even has its own amiibo already. There's some potential there. Although part of me looks at it, it's like, how do you make Shovel Knight like really unique when his signature move you can already do with Link?
Well, he bounces. Once he hits, he bounces back up.
Yeah, Link bounces.
I don't know.
Toon Link doesn't bounce, but Link bounces. But so we
Shovel
got these
Knight's all about
rules
that
on the
bounce.
slide, and
All about it.
who's eligible, who's going to come in. I think Nintendo's going to stick to their same rules of characters, and that A, they have to have originated from a video game, and B, they have to have had at least one entry on a Nintendo console. So I was, every so often I'll get bored. And the other day I was watching a video, and if anybody ever does this on their list, I will immediately discredit everything they say after it. Stop asking for Goku. Even if like Goku somehow miraculously did wind up in the game, I think I would still be pissed about it. Just
To be honest, I've heard one of the best ports of the game. What was it called? Project M, I think.
Yep.
They did come out with a Goku Smash Brothers avatar on that. That was really fun to play. People
seen
love
lots of mods. Some of them include Goku, and usually they're just skinned on top of characters. Like I did see one where Shovel Knight was on Link, so that when he did his down aerial, it was kind of like bouncing on a shovel.
Yeah.
Or I think I saw a mod where it was Goku on top of Ryu from the Wii U game. So instead of a Hadouken, it was a Kamehameha blast.
Right.
Little stuff like that. But yeah, so I don't want to see a whole lot of Goku, but it still stands to question, because usually when they make these things, they try to get a mix of new Nintendo characters and like old classic ones that people have forgot about. Like it was a lot of fun for them to bring Pit from Kid Icarus into Brawl. And Pit later wound up getting his own series. And, you know, they brought in the Ice Climbers in Melee. They brought in the Duck Hunt dog into the Wii U.
Yeah, Duck Hunt.
Yeah, which was totally like weird and random, but they made it work. And I love that when they're able to make something work out of something that's completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously for modern characters, they're bringing in the Splatoon inklings into this, and I know a lot of people wanted them in the last one too. But I think the last Smash Bros. Released before that Splatoon had even come out, so it's kind of that was like a big gamble for Nintendo. I feel the original Splatoon, like it was very unique. The Wii U wasn't selling so well. It's like, you know, is this going to catch on? Are people going to enjoy this? But it sounds like Splatoon 2 on the Switch has been doing really well, and so it makes sense to bring in those characters now.
Yeah.
But Nintendo was trying to do a lot in the multiplayer market when the Switch was first released. So now I'm hearing people talking about, oh, like what about the ARMS characters when they were trying to make, you know, ARMS a big selling point for the Switch, which I still haven't played. I don't exactly know how popular it is.
Yeah.
I think it's decently.
I think it's decently popular. That I have seen some lists online as well that include the ARMS characters for as potential. You know, I've also seen stuff where it's like, you know, where we have Cloud that was on the Wii U, that opens up endless possibilities with Square Enix games too. Most notably, I think people are looking at Sora and really wanting Sora to be in there.
Right.
And maybe kind of have them work kind of like how, you know, Pokemon Trainer did back in the back in Brawl, and it's just like, can we get, like, you know, not necessarily have Mickey Mouse as a character, but as part of a Sora moveset, you know.
Right. Granted, with the Wii U and 3DS entries, they opted away from characters that turn into other characters. I have a gut feeling they're gonna maintain that trend, so characters like Zelda and Sheik will still be separate.
But can you imagine though? Can you imagine to have that kind of, you know, that Disney property rights? Is like, what
I
can
think
we
that would
do
be
with Star Wars and
I think that'd be a
Marvel
really
at that
rough
point?
to work out,
Yeah.
just from a monetary
Disney would be
trademark
giving
point of
too
view.
much away if they did that.
Yeah.
But like for me, I'd be kind of frustrated with that. The Kingdom Hearts series has never, like, they've had games on the Game Boys and I think even the DS, but they've never had one of the core entries in this series.
Yeah.
And even now, while they're still working on Kingdom Hearts 3, that's been in development for like 13 plus years now.
75 years.
Yeah. You know, they're talking about that coming out. You know, they've released teaser trailers. Nothing about it ever appearing on a Nintendo console.
Yeah.
Granted,
But
you know, Cloud was in Final Fantasy VII, and he was never on. He himself was never on a Nintendo console. But other mainstay Final Fantasy games from back in the day, like there was still, you know, some old stuff back there, and there was an old partnership going back to what I said earlier, Super Mario RPG between Nintendo and Square. They made that together. So, you know, there might still be something there, whether it's Kingdom Hearts or whether it's Chrono Trigger or whether it's Super Mario RPG. There might be a well to tap there.
Chrono on Smash, I dig it. But you probably have too many sword bearers like Marth and all the Fire Emblem characters.
Yeah.
But I mean, who do you want to see?
For me, I have a couple mainstays that I've been wanting for a couple of the entries, and they always get knocked out. I'm big on bruisers. I would really like to see some bigger characters. Like I like playing Bowser because he's fun, but they never balance them so they can actually be used competitively. Competitive are always the fast ones. So like I want to see like King K. Rool from the Donkey Kong series. I think
that'd
the
be
series I think the series needs more villains and more bruisers. So I think of K. Rool because Donkey Kong is fairly underrepresented with only 2 characters. And it's an occasional fight that I get into with people, but I still want to see Ridley in the game from the Metroid series.
I would agree with that. Ridley would be awesome. I'm kind of surprised you didn't throw out Banjo-Kazooie on that one yet, because that was still a pretty popular game back in the day too. That
Banjo-Kazooie, I would absolutely love. I remember the very first Super Smash Brothers coming out, and me just being like, "Why isn't Banjo-Kazooie on here? It's a great Nintendo game." Because of course, as a kid, I don't understand any better. I knew the same people made Donkey Kong and Banjo-Kazooie, though, so I kind of figured they were pretty close with Nintendo. And let's face it, if the Microsoft buyout hadn't happened, there's an extreme possibility Banjo-Kazooie would have eventually made it over.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
closest we got to any crossovers on that was Diddy Kong Racing, I think.
I think
the head of
Banjo-Kazooie, that would be a
Microsoft-
good bruiser, too.
The head
Yeah.
of Microsoft has expressed an interest, like when the Wii U version came out, an interest in having Banjo-Kazooie in. Because you remember there was the poll that Nintendo made for the fans, and that's how Bayonetta got in. They asked, who do you
Mhm.
want to be a
And
playable
not
character?
Shovel Knight.
And Microsoft is open to it, but I wonder if that can happen because they say that they're open to it, but that probably just means they're open to whatever money Nintendo would be willing to dish out to make it happen.
I was
You know,
gonna make a joke about the Nintendogs being there, but apparently they already are.
As assist trophies, yeah.
What?
So
That's
I mean,
fine.
you can also look to the assist trophy library
Mm.
for possible characters. Another one, villain, underrepresented series, Samurai Goro from F-Zero, one of Captain
Yeah.
main rivals.
I was just
Granted,
going to say,
another
we need
sword
more
wielder.
F-Zero.
Yeah.
F-Zero, for how popular Captain Falcon himself has gotten, like the F-Zero series has pretty much died off, but for how popular Captain Falcon alone is because of the series, I don't think it would hurt to have a little bit more representation in there and possibly gear up more interest in it. People love Mario Kart, but there's still something that F-Zero can offer that Mario Kart doesn't. So,
I know.
if they ever wanted to relaunch the series, that'd be a good way to garner some interest.
Well, on the topic of how popular the Switch is, my brother just went into the bathroom with his Switch, and he's 100% playing more.
Yeah, no, you have no idea how much playtime my Switch has had in the bathroom. Like that is one of my favorite features of this thing, that I don't have to stop playing. Like when Zelda came out, and I was just obsessed with that thing completely. Like I did not put it down, and I didn't have to put it down. It was amazing. My legs went numb.
Oh my God.
Another this trophy that could cross over that is something I know is that Alec and I have an interest in. Isaac from the Golden Sun series.
Golden Sun was a great
yeah.
series.
It's a little bit more niche, a little less known. It was
Get some
popular enough to have
Gs.
3 total entries in the series.
They tried to breathe some life back into it by coming out with the new game, and it just failed to live up to every expectation, which might have also killed those dreams as well.
Might have. But as a character, there's a huge amount of potential there in movesets. And that's one thing that
Yeah.
I'm down.
I'm particularly interested in is what characters can be really interesting in what they do as far as moves. Like, yes, the Wii U was overloaded with characters using swords, some of them using the exact same moves as other characters. Obviously, Marth and Roy are in there, of course, but then we also had Lucina, who is just another Marth.
Mhm.
I would really like to see them actually make a character out of Waluigi. I mean,
Oh, God,
first
yes.
off, I'd really like to see like an actual Waluigi game, so he's not just like a tennis double all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
This
but
weirdo shows
They
up.
could
I know.
probably do something really crazy and something really cool as far as a character, because you definitely couldn't have him be a clone of Wario with Wario's moveset.
Right.
You call a clone just a guy with the same
I
moves.
kind of want to
pretty much.
argue with you a little bit, just because I recognize Waluigi as a character, I just don't see him as being a good representative, I guess, because like you said, like Waluigi, he's never had a game. He was invented so that Wario had a tennis partner. That's the honest to God origin of Waluigi for anybody unfamiliar. And the biggest role he's had outside of the multiplayer game field is that he was the main antagonist in Mario Dance Dance Revolution. That is not something that to me makes for an interesting
Does he-
representative.
Well,
Does he have an
there was
assist
that-
trophy?
He was
He
an
does.
assist trophy where he beat people up with a tennis racket.
And he
Okay, I was gonna.
beat him
I
into the
could
ground.
just see him throw. What are they called? Banana peels all over the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, just the fact that he would obviously be from the Mario series, even though Wario's there representing his own series, which would just be confusing to have the lesser brother on Mario's team rather than Wario's. Anyway, where was I going? The Mario is already well represented as a series in the game. I would like to see either an underrepresented series or a brand new series coming to the fold.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they said release this year, right?
They're saying yes, later this year, which means probably holiday of next year, because Smash Bros. Games have a terrible habit of getting delayed.
Mm.
But we can remain optimistic about it. At this point, every single month, people are going to be waiting for a new Nintendo Direct to see more about the game. We might not see anything new about it until E3, but
Mm-hmm.
one thing I both Brawl and 3DS Wii U did a fantastic campaign of regular updates that kept people
Yep.
anxious every day and every week. What new thing are they going to reveal? Like I remember when Brawl was coming out in high school, every day, I'd get up a little bit early, check the computer because they had their Smash Bros. Dojo website, and every single day they showed something new for the game. Sometimes it was a stage, sometimes it was an item, sometimes it was something completely boring and I didn't care about. Every so often, you get that little new challenger approaching banner at the top of the screen.
Oh boy.
The heart skips a couple beats and you scroll down and see who is finally here. I think I started crying when I saw Olimar.
Oh my
That Olimar was going to be a playable character. It's like, oh my god! And then I watched a video where it was just like the Pikmin, because they announced the song at the same time. They announced the theme from Pikmin that was going to play on the Pikmin stage, and I watched a video that was just a montage of the pictures they released of Olimar with that music playing, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm crying right now. Like I get emotional with Smash Bros. It's kind of sad.
Oh wow. But hey, we do have a while to wait before really even we hear anything more on it. But one thing we don't have time for, this topic.
You're
I told
right.
you I
You
could
could
fill
talk
up
about
time.
it for a while.
I warned you.
I know, and this is me segueing out of it.
I didn't even get into my third-party picks. I mentioned third-party characters. I didn't even get into my third-party.
Well, let's move on.
Another time, another episode.
Hmm.
The next time they announce a new character, I'll talk for 15 minutes on that one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Every new character. But hey, we're gonna take a quick break. Do our things that we need to do. I don't know, laundry.
Been holding in a fart for like 75 minutes.
Okay, so Simone needs to fart. I need a fart too myself.
Yeah.
Let's all go take a fart break.
All right.
Okay.
Hey, welcome to the break. Just want to say that, this segment is sponsored by Cough Drops, because if you can't tell, my voice is kind of battered, and that's been through a whole week of Cough Drops. And if it wasn't for Cough Drops, I don't think I'd have a voice to even talk and tell you about this wonderful break. Just Cough Drops in general. I've been taking a lot of them, let's just put it that way. After a whole week of coughing, it's been pretty dastardly. So Cough Drops, yeah, thank you, Cough Drops, for helping me out when I was coughing all week due to having a cold. It's on the downturn now, so that's the thankful thing. And hey, don't forget water. Water's a good thing as well when you have a cold. Just go always drinking it. I have some right here right now. Water. Good stuff. But hey, we have another quick break right after this, and then we will get back into it, where you will be hearing the last two topics, for Simone's and mine. So, stay tuned for that. Later. Hey gang, just letting you know that the music you are hearing, providing the interludes as well as the intro and the subsequent outro, are all from the same track called Friends by The Miracle of Sound. Just wanting to give credit where credit is due. If you want to check it out, definitely recommend it. Check out all the other work. Let's jump back into it. Welcome back, everybody. We just broke some sticks, broke some concrete blocks, and that was us breaking. Right?
Oh, good.
Man, Wes, I don't know, man.
I told you, lame joke. Lame joke. That's one best at. Otherwise, I guess we can just move to the next topic. I don't have a good segue, so,
Damn.
but really, Simone, why don't you hit it off?
I mean, I kind of wish you kept talking about the Switch because you guys are. I mean, you know so much about that, so knowledgeable about that one subject, and I know absolutely nothing about anything because I don't know. I've been sick and stuff, and like just having a weird week. So I never watched like movies and TV shows. I have no attention span whatsoever. But for some reason, started watching Netflix again, and I'm sort of obsessed with English TV shows randomly. Like
Huh.
I started with this one show called Man Down. It's like a weird sitcom about this comedian. I think his name is Greg Davies. It's so funny. He gets himself in these weird situations, and like it's like I don't know when it's from, probably early 2000s, but it makes me cringe so hard because
Oh,
he's so
God.
stupid. Like, freaking one of the episodes, he's not invited to his niece's like birthday party because his family hates him. So he's like, no, you should totally. I'm a totally responsible adult. So like, okay, go pick up the cake from the bakery.
Oh,
He
no.
goes to pick it up, and his car gets towed, with the
Oh.
cake in it.
Oh,
They have to break in. Oh no, he gets
oh God.
his friend's car towed as well, so they hide in the car so they can steal the cake. But little do they know, there's a whole dog in the total yard.
Oh.
Golden. But yeah, that, and then there's two other shows. Black Mirror, I finally watched all of it. Except for the first episode,
Nice.
I heard it's garbage, so I'm not gonna waste my time on that.
It was a rough one to start off with.
I don't even know what it's about, but I've heard everyone, all the advice to just skip it because it's not worth it.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to explain what the first episode was about on the podcast.
All right.
There's that one, which I love. I keep just like thinking about it during like every day. Like today, I was dismantling and disassembling a vacuum cleaner, trying to fix it, and then I forgot how it was supposed to go back together. So I was like, man, I wish I had that shit in Black Mirror where you could just like rewind your memories and see them, so I could see how I did this.
Yeah.
I just keep thinking
They
about
kind
it,
of
and
had
then
an old episode about that though.
say what?
Yeah.
So they kind of had a whole episode about that though.
Yeah. Well, he kind of ruined his life. Yeah, in that situation with the vacuum, I feel like that would have been mighty helpful. But that one's really good, and I'm noticing all the actors that are like, there's the actor from Black Panther and Get Out. I forget his name.
Yeah.
Daniel something. He's super good. He was in an episode of that.
He is very good. Yeah.
I just love him. I mean, I obviously don't know his name, but I love him. And then another one that I wish there was more of it. They've only got one season out so far. It's called The End of the Fucking World, and it's based off a
I-
comic.
What?
Got that one.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I did see that advertised on Netflix. Yeah, I
it's
haven't.
actually really good. I had some like, it just looks like a grungy teenage thing, but it's actually pretty good. And if you look up the comic is actually not that. It looks like a comic strip, like Sunday morning type thing. It was not what you'd think it is at all, but it's so good. The actors are so good. I don't know what it is about English people.
My fiance and I we watched the first episode of a series, like The Most Extraordinary Homes in the World or something like
yeah.
that. Where the two leads in that are both British, and it's kind of fun. Yeah, it's kind of fun just listening to their accents sometimes.
That's enjoyment in itself.
Mhm.
I have this weird knack. It's a really weird thing. But if there's ever like an actor who's faking an American accent, and it doesn't matter if like Australian, English, whatever, I can always kind of tell.
Yeah, like I had a hard time watching the second season of Jessica Jones.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
because her best friend Trish, I don't know the actress's name, but
Mhm.
she's either Australian or New Zealand, like one of those two. Like
Mhm.
every so often I hear a twinge of that.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
You can't hide it.
Yeah, you can hear the accent come out
Like-
every now and then.
And like prior
She's
to
trying
that,
her
I was
best
like,
for an
"Sure,
American
that's
accent.
a bad American accent," and it's like, she's got a bad American accent.
Dude, you know who's the worst American accent of all time is Henry Cavill. He sucks. I don't know if he's trying for like a New York or what, but it's so
Oh god.
awkward. Such a bad accent. But someone who has a great accent, I didn't even know she was English, is I don't even know her name. She's a little sister from Black Panther. She was in Black Mirror too, and
Oh.
she did an English accent, an American accent, and I couldn't tell what she was. And then she did that like Wakandan African accent. She's so good. I love her. I don't know who she is, but I love her, and she's a good actress. They're all just English people are so good.
Yeah.
I'm like geeking out. I'm like a weeaboo, but for like English stuff.
I know,
I
like,
will
a lot
say,
of people were surprised with Hugh Laurie is like the big one that I know most people
Mhm.
house.
Dude, is he English? What's the answer?
oh yeah,
What?
yeah. Fry and Laurie,
Oh wait, yeah, no, yeah, you're right. I've heard of
Hugh
that.
Laurie and
Oh,
Stephen
yeah,
Fry. They
I'm
had
millennial.
that was a fun one.
And then Rose McIver from the iZombie series. I don't know if any of you guys watched that at all.
Mhm.
Rose.
But that one caught me off guard. I haven't been watching the most recent season though. I don't know if I'm gonna pick it up or not.
One show that I heard about on the radio that I decided to check out.
But you
Every
listen to
now and
radio?
then. Yeah, I do listen.
Someone
to
still
radio.
listens to radio?
Yeah, absolutely. But I was hearing them talk about it, and when I actually got around to watching it, I was really surprised that they were talking about it on the radio. But that was their topic was Netflix shows that they were getting into, and one guy brought up was Devilman Crybaby,
No.
which is a Netflix produced anime based on an old show that was out back in the day called Devilman, and I saw they even had a crossover with Devilman in a series that Max and I grew up with was Cyborg 009. That was Cyborg 009 versus Devilman. But this was a whole new show produced by Netflix. And I gotta say, I kind of agreed with the guy on the radio. It was a really good show. It was really interesting. Definitely NSFW in every sense of the word. Up until the last episode and a half, I was just definitely taken out of the whole experience and was kind of disappointed by the ending. But it's one season. There'll only ever be one season. They kind of make that pretty clear by the end of the show without trying to spoil too much if you guys want to check it out. But it was very good. It's just God, it's just the ending was just not good for me. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
That's about it. I mean, my life's so exciting, but
Yeah.
watching a lot of Netflix now.
But Netflix is definitely, I got a buddy that will check out a new anime show every now and then. We just like to expand our anime library here and there. And
There's one show which I was sort of looking forward to since there's this band called Vampire Weekend, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, he made Neo Yokio with Jaden Smith,
Oh.
and Desus and Mero. Those guys are awesome. Jesus and Mero. So like, someone had told me to watch that because it had all the ingredients of something I'd really like, but I just didn't get it. Like I wanted to like it. It has everybody I like in it. Freaking Jaden Smith, my hero, my icon. But it's just so weird. It's so odd. And I know what they're going for. They're going for like a preppy, futuristic kind of weird thing, Asian thing. But it just, I don't know. I mean, for those people that like it, they love it. But for me, it just makes me want to scratch my head. I'm just like, I don't know who this is for.
Yeah, that can be tough sometimes. Same with well, kind of like I said, where Netflix was definitely foraying into the anime, and now they're producing stuff where they changed anime into live action and stuff, and it was just I heard how badly they screwed up Death Note, and that's just
Oh
who is
god.
this for?
I
like
did
people
hear Death Note
watching
was divisive, to say the least.
Yeah.
Freaking ugh.
I
Yeah,
started
that's-
watching like South Korean dramas. Like there's one called Black where there's like it starts out the first episode's like I could watch this like it seemed like a police drama, police kind of procedural with someone who can see someone's death. I'm like, oh, this is good first 2 episodes, and it's like all of a sudden they brought Death Reapers into it, and it's this whole Land of the Dead kind of thing, and it's really. It took a twist on the first episode. After, I mean, like, the third episode in is where you find out about Death Reapers. And it's like, it was so weird.
Did it kind
And-
of like upset the experience for you then?
A little bit.
Uh-huh.
At first, I'm like, but at the same time, it's like, here's this new interesting politics of Death Reapers. As one guy's trying to retrieve a soul. But yet he had to steal a dead body. Of course, that means problems for everyone who knew the person before they died.
Hmm.
But I have to get back. I have to start watching it again. I started watching it, and then it's just it requires closed captioning, which requires me not doing anything else other than
Mm.
watching.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I kind of had a similar experience. So there was this TV show. I don't know if it's still running or not. Um, but there is this TV show that came out called um, like Last Man on Earth or something like that.
Oh yeah, that was
I'm
on
like,
the Hulu.
yeah, and I had some decent advertising. I'm like, oh, like this looks like it could be funny. This one guy kind of going mad in the wasteland of America. Like, let's see where this goes. And like at the end of the very first episode, you find out he's not the last man on Earth. Like there's still there's still another person, and then like the
Well.
other person is a woman. And then like 5 episodes later, or not even that, like 3 episodes later, another woman shows up, which leads to some whatever, 2 women, one guy. Oh god. And then like
Mm.
2 episodes after that, another guy shows up, and I'm just like, you completely butchered the whole premise of this show.
Well, how
Like,
how long are you
everything
gonna
was
watch a show
perfect.
with literally just one guy being bored in the last?
I know. I was curious to see where they went with that, but they couldn't even do that for a single episode.
There's like an asterisk after the title. It's like maybe.
Yeah.
One
Well-
season of him alone, and then at the season finale is like, maybe not.
And then I think I later
Perhaps
found
not.
out that like the second season followed a different guy in a different part of the country. It's like,
No.
this is just
That's-
ruining the whole
advertising.
premise.
They should take
What
it.
are you
back to
doing?
2.5 Men at least had 2.5 men.
Even after they lost, what was the name?
Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen. Brought
Yeah,
an action
like
picture.
they still made sure there were 2.5 men. Granted,
Yeah.
Mm. But one show you should binge if you're on Netflix is Stranger Things. And Stranger Things, you know what they do? They play D&D. And you know what you can do with D&D? You can play fun. You play it, have some fun. Even better, you listen to people play D&D. So that's the long walk to segueing into my
You
topic.
didn't even take a segue. You just walked into a door and was like, "Yes, this is the next subject."
I mean, it's still a segue. No. So I want to talk about D&D podcasts. One. Sorry. I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and not as many as I want to, but I don't have the time for all of them.
Yeah.
But 2 of them that I do listen to are focused on D&D, and I have so much fun with them. One is a podcast by actual comedians. Brian Posehn. He was in what was that old TV show, magazine? Anyways, he was a mailman, and then he was also in Sarah Silverman's Comedy Central show. He was one of the male leads.
Brian Posehn, I remember him.
Yeah, he's got a beard. He's bald.
Yeah.
So, he also plays with other comedians, and they play D&D, and it's really fun because he likes to play characters that are like him, dumb but strong. So he plays barbarians usually. But they used to do a show, and then they had to quit because of everyone's schedules. But 3, 4, 5 years, they brought it back with Patreon, and it's so much fun. Like the new DM, he's he failed. I don't want to say failed, but he had some struggles as a first time DM. Now he's actually having a lot of fun with it, and they just started season 2, It's pretty fun. Another D&D podcast I listened to. Sorry, the other one was Nerd Poker. This new one I'm going to talk about is called Bombarded.
Bombarded.
And it's essentially a band with one of the band members is a DM, and they play Going to Bard School. 3 band members who go to Bard School. And so it's like, oh, this person was a rogue for 3 levels before. This person was a fighter. This person was a barbarian. Now they're a bard. And it's this whole thing like Harry Potter meets barding D&D. So it's really interesting. And obviously, since they're band members, they do live music during it. In fact, that's one thing every episode is they roll dice to see what chords they have to play. And they make a new song. And it's pretty fun. So it's just kind of crazy, the expansion of D&D. I mean, I play it myself, and I still love listening to stories that come from it. Like this one is, they're playing live music, and it's all set up in a bard school system. Getting in misadventures like Harry Potter. Do you guys listen to any like D&D podcasts or watch any like D&D side stuff?
So Alec and I's youngest brother, he clued us into Critical Role at one point. We kind of watched a little bit of that, and he's DM'd actually some games for us, and kind of kind of try to style a lot of how he did things off of that, which was just interesting to watch. Being that Critical, like it stars like a lot of voice actors, and they're the kind of people who not only like, hey, maybe you recognize them from this and that, but they're people who are talented enough to kind of put life into the characters they're playing, which kind of gives another dimension to it.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the best parts, I would say, with playing D&D. You're playing someone else. Whatever worries you have, you don't care. Right now, in the game I play, I'm a warlock who lost her mentor and is searching for him, and she loves languages, but she sees a language she cannot understand. So she's trying to figure out the mystery behind her missing mentor. But whatever worries I have, working overtime, crappy schedule, it don't matter. I play a different character who has different worries and different problems and different joys.
Yeah, it's a good escape.
So I'm curious. Do you do anything else that's or have an interest in things that are D&D-esque, or like kind of play the same way but aren't necessarily the fantasy setting? Like I've heard, like I have some friends who do like a Star Wars kind of D&D campaign where it's set in the Star Wars universe, or other sci-fi things or the like.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I was playing a Star Wars D&D thing before, but we've had to cancel. And I do listen to another podcast, really famous with the McElroy brothers, The Adventure Zone. And right now, they're doing mini arcs where they try different systems, different combat systems, different story narrative systems. And they've been really cool. Like, there was one, Monster of the Week. That was really cool. Now they're doing a murder mystery in an Old West setting with vampires, werewolves, ghosts. It's really like that D&D-esque really works because whether the mechanics are there, it's the narrative. Right. And mechanics add to the narrative, but at the same time you get that storytelling. Kind of like oh crap, I'm blanking on the name of the other podcast, but where they just tell of this like Cthulhu-esque town. But
yeah, no, I was about this sort of thing because so my fiance, she's very much not like nerdy in most respects. So, but every so often I try to find something that can maybe bridge the gap a little bit. In a sense, a little bit of her and a little bit of me. kind of explore new interests together in a way. And I saw something on Kickstarter the other day that I kind of had to chuckle a little bit and be like, maybe this is something that she would have interest in. But it was a Kickstarter for, it was essentially Dungeons and Dragons, but instead of a fantasy setting, it was Pride and Prejudice.
No, God, that sounds like her.
Because okay, so I like to say this because there's a Pride and Prejudice card game that she and I play sometimes. That's actually kind of fun.
Yeah, it was kind of fun to watch you guys play that too, to be honest.
Yeah, because the premise of that card game is essentially that you're one of the women in Pride and Prejudice, and you're trying to like up your status in society so that you can find an ideal husband. So, and it sounds like this Kickstarter Pride and Prejudice D&D is kind of a similar thing where you're role playing Victorian England, and you like the setting is you get invited to your great aunt's for tea, and there are rival suitors at this party, and you got to impress the women folk. What are you gonna do or something? just stuff like that. So and it got me thinking, just like how extreme from the core concept of Dungeons and Dragons can we get and still have like this whole like role play game nature of it? Because those are two things I never would have mixed. But that Kickstarter is well like above and beyond what their target goal was. So there's clearly an audience for it.
No, I could easily see that being like, can you dance? What's your deception? What's your persuasion? What's your like all that kind of like that social, and then pushing it even further for a Pride and Prejudice setting.
Mm-hmm.
I could actually see that working now. I want to check this out.
Just like if all of your characters were bards in a social area, because obviously most D&D characters are built to be fighters and the like, but some characters are more for when you're visiting a town and need to get information, or maybe you just like randomly feel like flirting with somebody and seeing where that gets you. Which I can never do. I can't flirt with a DM. It's just too weird.
Yeah.
I had one warn me once. He's just like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Because I'm going to get way more into it than you are." And I'm just like, "I'm out. I'm not playing gay chicken here."
See, like the social components of D&D is really fun too. Like a lot of people like to min max their character, but role playing is where it can really get fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
From my experience, that also comes down to the group that you're with too. Because I think the first time I played, I tried to be like super role play about it, but the other guys were just like not taking it very seriously, so I stopped taking it seriously. And we had a guy in session 2 who was supposed to be in session 1, but he missed out. He flaked and came in session 2, and he was role playing like super seriously, like doing this like whimsical accent and everything. And I'm just like, okay, so this guy's taking it more seriously than I wanted to, and the whole campaign fell apart because everybody was trying to get something different out of it.
Yeah. And that's kind of, that's with any group project, if you want, is everyone's comes in with their own goals and comes in with their own, whatever the word is, I'm blanking. But no, it's still really cool, and it's sad to see that the group fell apart, but it is not uncommon for that to happen too.
Yeah.
But that's just one thing I like is, I'll listen to podcasts where the people joke around. I'll listen to a podcast where they talk about like any nerd culture, But the ones that I just cannot wait for are the D&D ones, these narrative storytelling. And I'm excited to see what happens in this murder mystery and in Old West town with the vampires and werewolves and ghosts. And I'm also excited to see what's going to happen at this magic school, straight up D&D, or this magic school that got cursed and they're trying to find out why all these magic schools are falling apart. And I'm also interested to see what happens to, oh, what do they call themselves? The Chaos Sauce is the band name. This Bard school, and that's their 3-person band with live music. It's just, I can't wait to see what happens next. It's kind of like reading a chapter in a book, and you keep wanting to read. But, anyways, any final thoughts?
Mm,
Smash is too
D&D's
far away.
Smash is too far away. D&D is super fun, and you should try it if you never have before.
I think for anybody who doesn't have a Switch now, Smash is going to be the final selling point.
mm.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's been the Quad Pod, where we talked about D&D podcast, Netflix binging, Smash Brothers, and video games holding up within time. Otherwise, I think that was pretty fun. I think that was pretty good. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hey, don't forget to check us out, of course, but also the intro song, the outro song that you'll soon hear, and the mid little riffs. That all came from Miracle of Sound, a great musician. It's friends, so definitely check it out if you enjoy it. But still, I think we've had a great time. Alec, Simone, Max, myself, Wesley, I think we're ready to go.
Yeah, tell your dog I said hi.
Later.
Later.
Bye.